Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suisuiki. Coming up,
we'll see what happens. They are, of course, our cooperation with the PIF is very important.
The French ambassador to the Pacific hints at good news from Paris also.
We have decided that we will not stop here. The fight must continue.
PNG's government avoids another vote of no confidence, and New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister heads off for the North Pacific. The French ambassador to the Pacific has hinted that Paris may have sent her some good news to deliver to Pacific leaders on the sidelines of the PIF foreign ministers' meeting. Pacific leaders have been gunning for approval from Paris to send 4 Pacific prime ministers to New Caledonia in light of ongoing violent unrest. Lydia Law spoke with Veronique Roger-Lacan ahead of her trip to Suva.
The latest is that I'm traveling to Suva tomorrow. That's it.
To hand over a letter or?
I don't know. We'll see whether we still have no... They are, of course, our cooperation with the PIF is very important, and our dialogue with the PIF is very important, and we are always open for dialogue and discussion. So this is the principle. Now it's up to Paris to decide, but something, I guess, will come.
Okay, so you are expecting something from Paris between now and tomorrow to be able to explain or hand over to
as I said, I'm going to Suva, and then we'll see what happens. I'm going to Suva to continue, the discussions that we had already in Tokyo on the margins of the farm meeting.
Well, the leaders have already decided that they want to go to New Caledonia. They've sent a letter to Macron.
Sure.
What will you be able to update them on that?
Update, no, it's not, it's update maybe, but it's information, to give to everyone that not everyone has. Even what we read in the press in the Pacific, it's not very balanced. So we want to continue to, apparently they have been... people in the Pacific have been briefed by one side, not by all the sides, and they have to hear all the points of view.
Will the visit by PIF to New Caledonia be before the Pacific Islands Forum leaders meeting? Can you provide any update on that around timing?
No, I have nothing new to add compared to what I said to you last time on that issue.
And still on that issue, how realistic is it really for the leaders to request to go to New Caledonia before the Pacific Islands Forum, given there's the foreign ministers meeting, starting from the end of this week?
I don't know. It's not up to me to decide. It's up to the PIF to decide whether anything is realistic. It's their request. Paris is checking whether it can be before the summit or after. We still need information.
What information is needed?
We still need instructions from Paris. That's it.
So it's not really up to the leaders to decide. It's up to Paris now, isn't it, to decide whether or not it is realistic?
Well, this I've said before. It's New Caledonia is French territory, and it is the state which decides on who enters the French territory and when and how. So this is what is being decided in Paris.
Is Paris open to Pacific leaders going to New Caledonia?
Paris is open for dialogue.
Do you stand by your position that independence is not the only option?
Well, the response, this is very firm. The response is that it's the Nouméa agreement saying that all the communities of the Caledonian territory need to live together and to create a common, in French it's common, destin commun, so we can say a common destiny. The second part is the self-determination is the principle. It's not necessarily independence. It is self-determination, which is the legal principle in the French Constitution and in the UN Charter.
Do you sympathise with the indigenous Kanaks? Obviously, it's not all Kanaks, but those who want sovereignty?
Well, it's not the role of the state to sympathize or not sympathize to anyone. The role of the state is to keep peace and stability.
Do you believe in Indigenous rights?
What do you mean? We believe in the rights of everyone to live freely in a country where they belong.
Has security been ramped up ahead of a possible high-level PIF delegation?
It had nothing to do. The security now is almost back. You know that there is one last pocket of instability, which is the Saint-Louis community, and there are 16,000 Caledonian people who still cannot move freely within that area because there are so many unrests. But otherwise, yes, security has been brought back, and it's not because of the leaders or not.
Okay, so just confirming, there is security has been brought back, but not specifically for the leaders to be able to come.
It's a fact that we want the French government wanted the security to be back, and it is almost back, except within one pocket of the Saint Louis tribe.
And so if the leaders were to come in the next couple of weeks, there would be security?
Of course, we would have to ensure a security specifically, because any leader who comes on the French territory, security is ensured.
What are the main points that you think are really important and critical at this time?
The call to end the violence, that you can achieve anything, but not with violence. You cannot achieve anything with violence. France is a democratic country. New Caledonia is a French territory. So it has all the democratic tools. The self-determination of New Caledonia will be achieved and implemented on the basis of the three solutions, without violence, with dialogue, and with respect of democracy.
The Papua New Guinea government of James Marape has avoided a vote of no confidence again, but more attempts to unseat it are coming. The PNG opposition on Monday lost a legal challenge to have Parliament recalled to hold a vote. This came after an attempt to have a vote during the June session was not allowed by the Speaker, who also abruptly ended the session. Now the opposition leader, Douglas Tomoriesa, is eyeing a vote in September, with Parliament due to sit from September 3rd. But he also notes that the government could well delay the session because of the Pope coming to PNG and the country's national anniversary. Mr. Tomoriesa spoke to our PNG correspondent, Scott Whitey.
We have decided that we will not stop here. The fight must continue, and we will take it to the next level, and that is for us to be prepared for September the 3rd. As we all know, that VONC is a very important matter constitutionally, and we have gone to the courts for the interpretation of Section 145. However, the substantive matter was never given an opportunity to be interpreted by the courts. We fell short of going for interpretation, and we all know that the substantive matter was never had, and it was dismissed preliminarily through the cases that they brought forward. We personally believe that they have some hidden agendas. Number one, they don't want Section 145 to be interpreted by the Supreme Court. And number two, they don't want to test their numbers that they boast about, that they have more than 70 or 80. And so they really do not want to test those numbers. And because they cannot test those numbers, the Supreme Court has made its decision, and we respect the Supreme Court's decision. But importantly, Scott, is now I am calling upon those many members of the government who have approached us and spoken to us, and who are willing to put their hands up. And we know that several of them, I think 4 or 5 of them, have expressed their interest to put their hands up for the prime ministership. Now the door is open for anybody to put their hands up. Those in the government who have the numbers can come with his numbers and say, I want to be the nominee. We at our caucus discussed these possibilities, and we have now decided that the Prime Minister's post is for the people of Papua New Guinea. It's not only for the opposition or the government. It's for the people of Papua New Guinea. And any leader who's got the numbers and thinks that he can take the leadership is most welcome to come on board and be supported for that matter. There are a couple of things that will happen in September, Scott. I think we have some very important events happening in September. Number one, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, will be in the country on the 6th September. And then we have the independence on the 16th. And we have two major events happening around there. And so, as we all know, the government is unpredictable. They may use their numbers to adjourn Parliament to November budget session. So we can entertain those two major events coming up. And that is the Pope's visit to the country and the independence on the 16th. But we'll wait and see. If it does not happen the way we are thinking, then we in the opposition are ready to bring in the ONC when the time is correct. But people of Papua New Guinea must understand that the window of opportunity for the VONC is for 2 years. And so we have the whole of 2024 and 25 to submit the VONC whenever we are ready. We'll wait for opportunities to arise. And when those opportunities present themselves, we will definitely be going for it again.
Meanwhile, the PNG Prime Minister James Marape has dismissed any threats of a vote of no confidence from the opposition. He says MPs have already assessed what the opposition is offering and found it wanting.
You create government from the cluster of 118 members of parliament. So members of parliament are assessing the Marape-Rosso Pangu-led government as we speak. They passed a fair assessment. They also look at the alternates available. And in any given organization, the alternate must have clear, better policy option than the incumbent governments. So our program in terms of taking back PNG, economic empowerment of our people, trying to connect all parts of our country, leaving no place and no person behind remains key anchor focus policy programs today. It's up to the alternate team that is running around to pronounce their policy options. Whether it's to grow the economy, or whether it's law and order, infrastructure development, they have to pronounce that. For us on record, if you measure against our commitment to our nation in 2019, you see today, for instance, in the economic space, poker up and running at 51% to us and 49% to investor, consistent with our Take Back PNG mantra.
New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters is leaving for Fiji tonight, his first stop on a four-country Pacific tour. Mr. Peters will continue north to the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia and Palau. Our reporter Caleb Fotheringham is travelling with Mr. Peters and he joins me to talk more about this trip. Kia ora, Caleb. What's Winston Peters' plan in Fiji?
Kia ora, Sana. Well, Winston Peters, he's leaving to Fiji tonight, so Thursday night tonight, for the first stop of his four-country Pacific mission. He will be attending the Pacific Islands Forum Foreign Ministers meeting, and that's in Suva on Friday. And it's the last big meeting before the PIF leaders meeting in Tonga, which is later this month. And a lot of the leaders also double as the Foreign Affairs Minister. So Mark Brown's one of them, who's the current chair, and then incoming chair and Tonga Prime Minister, he's also going to be there. And that's because he's recently taken over the Foreign Affairs job, and that's only he's acting Foreign Affairs Minister at the moment. Now, he told RNZ Pacific he will be briefing the group in Suva on the PIF agenda and taking any issues they have to the PIF table. And then after that, Winston Peters, he's going to go up north to Marshall Islands and then to the Federated States of Micronesia and then to Palau.
Why is he going to the North Pacific?
It's a good question. The last standalone ministerial level visit to the North Pacific was in 2007. So it's been quite some time. And that 2007 visit was actually done by Winston Peters, and that was to the Marshall Islands. For Palau and the Federated States of Micronesia, I couldn't actually find when the last standalone foreign affairs trip had been. So it's really been quite some time. And this is part of Winston Peters' goal of visiting all the 17 Pacific Islands Forum member nations in under a year since he took the role as Foreign Affairs Minister. So by the end of this trip, he would have done 14, and the only countries he wouldn't have been to is New Caledonia, French Polynesia, and Kiribati. They still need to be ticked off his list. And part of the reason why Winston Peters is doing all this travel is he believes the previous government left a void of non-contact with the Pacific, so now he's looking to change that. When I had a chat with him, I asked him if China's growing influence in the region was part of the reason why he's doing all this travel. And he said when he was last Foreign Affairs Minister, which was between 2017 and 2020, he was doing the same thing, not necessarily hitting all the Pacific Island nations, but the same thing being he still thought the Pacific was very important and he was visiting it often. But at the same time, he also said the Pacific region is important for long-term security and the long-term interests of New Zealand. He also said, you neglect your neighbourhood at your peril.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā sui fua.